guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be another book tag. Actually I say another, but I haven't done a book tag in like a really long time. I don't actually know when the last time I did one was. It might have been in December. But anyway, that doesn't matter. We're doing another one, and it's called the Ultimate Book Tag. I was scrolling through BookTube, and I saw this tag, which was done in a video by December from Realm of Words and Pages, and I really enjoyed her channel. I started binging a bunch of her videos, so I will link her down below and her book tag video down below as well. As far as I can tell, this tag originated on a blog called The Bibliophile Girl. I will also link that down below. Anyway, I think we're just gonna jump right into it because I think it's 25 questions and it's really long. I have not read any of these beforehand. I just screenshotted all the questions. So we're just gonna dive right in. So question number 1 is, do you get sick while you're reading in the car? And this is easy. The answer is no. I have never gotten any kind of motion sickness, car sickness, anything like that. We went on a lot of road trips when I was a kid, and I just started reading in the car from a very young age. I don't know if that contributes to it at all, or if I'm just one of those lucky people that doesn't have that as an issue, but yeah, pretty much if I'm in a vehicle and I am not the person driving, I am reading something on my phone. My family constantly makes fun of me for it because I'm actually like, my dad and I are the only ones that don't get any motion sickness. Like my sister and my mom both do. And John does to an extent as well. Like he gets some motion sickness if he's not the one driving. So yeah, no, I mean, that was a long and drawn out answer for no, I don't get motion sickness and I can read anywhere and anything. Question number 2 is, which author's writing style is completely unique to you and why? I don't know. Here's the thing with the answer to this question is, I am not a prose person. I'm not really great at differentiating. To me, like, I don't know, is prose deaf a thing? Like, I'm prose deaf. I just read what I read and I either like it or I don't. Like, I like most fantasy writing styles, and I'm really sorry if you can hear jingling. Jinx is doing something downstairs and she's probably getting into trouble while I'm filming this, but it's all good. Yeah, I don't know, I don't pay attention to prose very much. Like, I can't tell you if it's beautiful or lyrical or whatever. It's just whether or not I liked it or I didn't like it. And honestly, unless it's really strange or like different from what I'm used to, I honestly will probably not have a problem with it. I tend to prefer things that are more simplistic than overly descriptive or like flowery. I'm not a purple prose person, which this is a very long explanation for I don't know the answer to this question. Erin Morgenstern has very unique lyrical writing to me and I did not like it, so I don't know if that counts. As far as like some of my favorite authors, I don't know that there's anything specifically unique or special about it that stands out to me. John Gwynne has a way of describing battle scenes. Is that prose? Or I don't know. I don't know. We're just gonna move on. Question number 3 is, Harry Potter or Twilight? Give 3 reasons why. I was in both of these fandoms at some point in my life. Harry Potter was what got me into reading as a child. I mean, I read a lot before that, but Harry Potter is what made me fall in love with fantasy, and it was the first like major book series that I ever binged, and so it will always have a special place in my heart, even though we don't support that author here. Honestly, and then Twilight started my love of vampire fiction, and I was a huge part of that fandom. There was Twilight fan fiction in my past. We're gonna move past that. We're not gonna talk about that part anymore. But yes, that happened, and I've been a part of both fandoms for various parts of my life. So I don't know that I could really pick one or the other because I don't think that you can compare them. It's really hard to compare like a middle grade academia fantasy to a toxic, let's be real, a toxic relationship of a teenage girl and her boyfriend, which at its core is what Twilight is. It's a vampire romance, and I don't really think that that could be categorized in the same way as Harry Potter can. Do I prefer one or the other? No. I appreciate each of them in different ways. I don't think I can answer that question either. This is going swimmingly. Question number 4 is, do you carry a book bag, and if so, what do you carry in it besides books? I am 27 years old. I do not carry a backpack anymore. I haven't since college. I carried books in my backpack and my laptop and other stuff, but now I just carry my purse if I need to, which has my wallet and stuff in it. I don't know, am I supposed to have more in it than that? My purse will generally have a book for me to read, or my Kindle, or like my tablet or something like that, but nothing really interesting. The next question is, do you smell books? And yes I do. Books smell great. We here on BookTube, we all appreciate the fact that a real paper-bound book has the best smell, right? Like, we can all agree on that. There's no dissension there. Do people love books but don't like the way that they smell? Because I don't think that exists, and if you are, I'm sorry, like, your opinion is valid, I guess. Maybe. Question number 6 is books with or without illustrations? With illustrations pretty much always. I love what they can contribute to any story. Specifically, like, I don't think that I've ever read a book that included illustrations that I didn't feel like it contributed more to the reading experience. Be it, you know, obviously a graphic novel is entirely illustrations, and we love that because that is that form of media, but I'm talking like adult fantasy that has some really great illustration and really great art inside. I live for that. I hate to beat the Stormlight Archive to death on my channel, but Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archive has some gorgeous illustrations, and I live for them. When I get to one of them, as I'm like reading through, I literally will just sit there and pore over the entire thing. We love illustrations. The next question is, what books did you love while you were reading it, but later on discovered that it wasn't quality writing? Here's the thing. I'm gonna keep saying that because I don't necessarily agree with a lot of these questions' phrasings, but I don't care if something is or is not quality writing, because that's purely a subjective way to describe somebody's writing style. It either works for you or it doesn't. We can all agree that things like Twilight and 50 Shades of Grey are not the most literature-like experience that you're going to get, but did I enjoy both of those things while I was reading them? Yes. Did I acknowledge at the time that they were probably not quality writing to other people's standards? Also yes, but that's not gonna stop my enjoyment of them. So I guess those are my answers. I lived for Twilight when it came out. I was at all of the premieres. I was book and movie. We were there for it, and did I accept at the time that they probably sucked to other people? Yeah, but I still don't care. They all had something that contributed to my reading enjoyment at the time. And now it's purely a nostalgic thing. I mean, even if I go back and read it now, will I appreciate the fact that they're kind of trashy? Yeah, but I'm going to be nostalgic of it regardless. The next question is, do you have any funny stories involving books from your childhood? I don't know. My family has always like laughed at me being the person whose nose was always in a book. Like, I brought one wherever we went. We went to my parents' friend's house and I would be sitting in the corner with my book being antisocial. That's how I am as an adult too. Like, if I can sit in a corner and read with a book in the middle of a party, I'm probably going to be doing that, to be totally honest. So no, nothing really crazy that I can think of. Sorry guys. My answers to this are probably pretty boring. The next question is, what is the thinnest book on your shelf? Just by glancing around really quickly, I think I'm probably gonna have to say The Foot Book by Dr. Seuss. This book has a pretty special place in my heart, like it always will, because it was my absolute favorite book when I was really, really young. I would make my sister read it to me constantly, and to this day, whenever she sees The Foot Book, she says that it reminds me of her. So when I graduated from high school, she actually got me a new copy of The Foot Book by Dr. Seuss, and she wrote an entire like letter in it to me telling me that story about how it always reminded her of me, and it will always hold a special place in my heart because of that, which is why I still own it, and it is up on the top shelf, and it is probably not ever going to be read again, but you know, that's fine. The next question is, what is the thickest book on your shelf? And I honestly think we're just going to have to assume it's the Stormlight Archive. I am pretty sure I don't own anything bigger than the Stormlight Archive. Whether it's, I think it's probably Oathbringer. I don't know if, well, Rhythm of War size-wise is actually a little bit larger than Oathbringer, so maybe it's Rhythm of War, but it's either going to be Rhythm of War or Oathbringer. They're both like 12 or 1300 pages or something crazy like that. And they're great. So yeah, we're talking about the Stormlight Archive again. The next question is, do you write as well as read? And do you see yourself being an author in the future? I do write, if you can call it that, as well as read, pretty much once a year. I write during NaNoWriMo, and that is it. And I generally don't finish NaNoWriMo, so, you know, that is what it is. But I do like to write also. I just never really make the time for it, so I don't really ever see myself being an author in the future. It's just a hobby that I like to do on the side. I like making stories. I like reading other people's stories. If it involves a storytelling media of some form, I am probably involved in it. The next question is, when did you get into reading? And I have always read. I don't remember a time in my life when there wasn't a book in my hand, or, you know, before I could hold one, having somebody read it to me. I already told the little anecdote about the foot book from when I was younger, so yeah, I have always been a reader. I will always be a reader. It's my escape. It's my favorite thing to do in the entire world, pretty much. The next question is, what is your favorite classic book? I am terrible at classics, guys. I own a bunch of classics. Do I ever make the time to read them? No, not really. I can tell you that most of the classics I've been forced to read for school, I have not enjoyed. But I have enjoyed a lot of, like, Jane Austen's. A couple of the Sherlock Holmes stories that I've read I've really enjoyed, and I started The Count of Monte Cristo, but I don't know that I've ever finished it, but from what I read of that, I really enjoyed it as well. Oh, and The Man in the Iron Mask by, I think, Alexandre Dumas. I don't know how to say his name. It's French. But from what I read of that, I really enjoyed it as well, and I would love to make time to actually finish that at some point in my future. The next question seems kind of random to me, but it's, what was your best subject in school? And I was a nerd in school, guys. I was really good at English, and I was really good at math at the time. I'm not anymore. And I was really good at, like, sciences, specifically chemistry, which makes sense because I am currently a forensic chemist, and that worked out well for me, I think. But no, as far as things I was good at, I don't, like, want to sound, like, super egotistical, but I was that person that was, like, really good at high school, and then when I got to college, I didn't know how to cope with anything or, like, learn to study or anything, so that definitely sent my grades down a lot lower than I was used to. But yeah, no, as far as in high school, I loved learning the things, and I loved science specifically is what I really enjoyed learning about, and what I decided to major in and eventually go into as my career. This next question I need to read very carefully because I'm not sure exactly what it says. So, if you were given a book as a present you read before and hated, what would you do? Oh. Okay. If you were given a book before, no. If you were given a book that you had already read and didn't like, what would you do? I assume, like, would I tell them? No, I mean, it's very nice of them to buy me a book. I wouldn't just be like, oh, I hated this and throw it in the trash. I don't know, I like getting books as presents. I've received plenty of books as gifts that I, like, haven't really enjoyed. They've stayed on my bookshelves, whether here or at my parents' house, because it was a nice present from somebody who was thinking of me when they bought it. I don't have a problem with keeping it just for those memories alone. I would never just be like, oh, I hated this book, here, you can take it back. So I guess that's what I would do. I put them on my bookshelf regardless of the fact that I'd read it before and didn't like it. Maybe I should have read these questions beforehand, because they're kind of on a one track as far as, like, series go, but what is a lesser known series that you know of that is similar to Harry Potter or the Hunger Games? Okay. We are gonna go in a slightly different route here. So as far as something, I don't know that I can recommend it because of its similarity to Harry Potter, because I love the series more than I love Harry Potter, if I'm being totally honest. But Alana the Lioness, the entire Lioness series written by Tamara Pierce. I have talked about Tamara Pierce incessantly on my channel. It's never gonna stop. I love the lady. I love all the books that she's written. And Alana has some similarities, I guess, to Harry Potter in that it is a school setting in a fantasy. That's kind of where, and it's middle grade, but that's kind of where the similarities end, because there's no, like, urban fantasy component to it. It's purely high fantasy, but it is in a school-ish setting because she's learning to become a knight, and it is middle grade, and frankly, it is better than Harry Potter. I said what I said. As far as the Hunger Games, I don't really know that there's anything. I'm gonna keep looking at my shelves because I have no idea how to answer this. I don't know that there's anything that I would really compare to that competition dystopian setting. But in terms of the dystopian genre that I don't think people talk about enough, I'm going to say the Razorland Saga by Anne Aguirre. The entire trilogy is just so good. I don't think it's talked about enough on BookTube. In fact, I've never actually seen anybody talk about it on BookTube, but that is Enclave, Outpost, and Horde. They are fantastic. I'm too lazy to get them and hold them up for you, so I will put pictures up here, but they're so good. It's very much your like zombie dystopian fantasy. You follow Deuce and Fade, and they are just trying to survive in a land. It's a futuristic dystopia of mutated humans. It's great. I don't know how to sell this series any harder, and I just think that everybody needs to read it. Okay. What is a bad habit that you do besides rambling while you're filming? Well, it's saying a lot. I say a lot, and I make like a noise with my tongue. Those are annoying habits. But I really do think that my biggest one is rambling. I don't script my videos, and I'm sure you guys can tell that because I ramble and go off on side tangents a lot. And I cut a lot of it out so you guys don't see the worst parts of it, because honestly, if I kept them in there, so many of my videos would be so absurdly long, it's ridiculous. And I mess up a lot. I don't keep any of the bloopers or anything. I've kind of thought about doing it so that I could make a video of them later on, but they're just not funny bloopers. Most of them are just me like saying something wrong or losing my train of thought and then just like staring off into the distance while I try and figure out what I want to say instead. But yeah, those are my biggest annoyances while I'm filming. I ramble. I talk all the time, and I don't always talk all the time about what I'm supposed to be talking about. The next question is, what is your favorite word? And I don't think I have one. Do people have favorite word? There's so many to choose from. How do you have one favorite word? I don't know the answer to this, guys. It's funny though, because the one that pops into my mind as soon as I hear this is defenestrate, but I'm pretty sure that's because like somebody in a book I read one time was asked like, oh, what's your favorite word? And they were like, oh, did you know there's a word that literally means to throw someone or something out of a window? It's defenestrate. That's my favorite word. And it's not my favorite word, but I do love it. I think that it's entertaining that it exists. I don't know. If you have a favorite word, tell me what it is in the comments down below. I would be really curious to know if I am like the only person that doesn't have a word that they love more than any others, I guess. All right, the next question is, are you a nerd, a dork, or a dweeb? Can you be all three? I'm a nerd, and I'm a dork, and I guess I'm how is a dweeb different? I don't know. I am a nerd, I am a geek, I am a dork, I am all of those things. Any of the usual stereotypes that you can attribute to somebody that falls under any of those categories, that is me. So yeah, all of them, I guess. I am all of those things. Vampires or fairies, and why? These are some really strange either-ors, and again, I don't think that I can choose just one because I appreciate each of them in each of their own scenarios. Listen, I went through a really long vampire romance phase, and I went through a really long fairy romance phase, and I just appreciate them in different ways. I don't know. I don't think that I can pick one, in all honesty. They both have their benefits, I guess, as mythological creatures. Lately, I would say fairy, but I don't like saying fairy. Lately, I would say fae, just because I haven't read a vampire anything in so long, I say, as I'm in the middle of a vampire romance novel as we speak. But before this, I haven't really read any vampire anything in a very long time, so fae more recently, I guess. Another either or is shapeshifters or angels, and why. And this is easy for me. I'm gonna go shapeshifters purely because Supernatural has taught me that angels are dicks. It is what it is. I really don't read, we're going back to my romance reader roots here, but I really don't read any like angel romance. There's like a couple that I've tried, but as far as like between the two types of romance goes, I really like the Shapeshifter romance better. I had one of those phases where that was all that I read as well. And yeah, they're great. Shapeshifter all the way. Also animals, like they're just cooler. Like a person with wings versus a person that can turn into an animal like whenever they want, that's way more awesome on every level. Zombies or vampires, and why? Again, this is situational for me. If I'm reading a dystopian, zombies all the way. But if I'm reading like a romance, I don't think that zombies are sexy, so we're gonna go with vampires for that. They each have their own category that they belong in, and I don't think that you can really compare them. Like, as bad guys, you can compare them? I don't know. Zombies are scarier because they're mindless? I really don't know. I have no clue. Love triangles or forbidden love, and why? Listen, I don't really like either of these, but if I have to pick one, I'm gonna go with forbidden love because I despise love triangles more than any other trope in the entire world. I hate love triangles. I hate how they always tend to push the main character towards the one that I don't like, and inevitably I just go and spoil myself so that I know whether or not I can root for the one person that I want them to be with. But forbidden love, it's just so angsty, and I don't love angst in my anything. Like, it just, I don't know. I can't do either of them, but I'm going to pick forbidden love because that is how deep my hatred of a love triangle runs. Full-on romance books or action-packed with a few love scenes. And again, this is totally situational for me. I mean, I love both of them. I'm a big mood reader. It just depends on what I'm in the mood for at that particular time. If I'm in the mood for a romance, then give me all of the romance. But if I'm in the mood for, I will always prefer a story that contains a romance. Let me just say, I am one of those people. If a story has a romance in it, I don't even care how good the romance is. I will generally like it a little bit more than something that doesn't have any romance. I just like that element to any story, fantasy, sci-fi, whatever. I think that it improves my enjoyment of it immensely. So yeah, it depends on the mood that I'm in, but definitely always something that has romance in it at some point. Okay, and finally, the last question is plans for future videos. And guys, I don't really have any. I've got a whole list of things that I plan to hit on eventually. Whether or not I will at any point soon, I don't know. Some of them are a lot of work, and I've been fairly busy lately, so I've just been filming a lot of stuff last minute as it comes to me. This video is a product of me just scrolling through BookTube and finding it, so that's what happened there. So yeah, it's gonna be a surprise to both of us. We're just gonna go with that, I guess. But anyway, that is the end of the ultimate book tag. I have been filming for a very long time at this point. I didn't really anticipate that it was going to take quite this long. But yeah, so all of the books that I talk about, I will do my best to link them in the description down below as best as possible. There were a lot of them, I know. I'm also going to link December's video down below, as well as the link to the original blog that had this book tag on there. And that is it for me today, guys, so I will see you in my next video. Bye!